Hey guys, tonight we slip through the creaky back door of a sprawling Edwardian manor, circa 1910, where you're not the lord or lady but a lowly servant, scurrying through a world of polished brass and rigid rules. Picture it. The air smells of coal dust and lavender polish, gaslights flicker on damask walls, and your shoes squeak on the black and white tiled floor. You're in a grand English estate, where chandeliers glint like frozen stars, but one wrong move, like spilling tea on the mistress's silk gown, and you're out on the street penniless. Trust me, you probably won't survive this unscathed. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your location and local time. I'd love to know where you're drifting off from tonight. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You stand in the servants' entrance, a narrow passage reeking of damp stone and yesterday's stew. Your apron is starched stiff, your hands already rough from years of scrubbing. It's your first day, or maybe your 100th in this grand house, and the weight of its rules presses on you like a too-tight corset. The Edwardian era, that sliver of time from 1901 to 1914, is all about opulence upstairs and grime below. The manor runs on a strict hierarchy, and you're near the bottom. The butler, Mr. Carson types, looms like a hawk, his pocket watch ticking louder than your heartbeat. Above him, the housekeeper, Mrs. Hughes, if we're feeling romantic, clutches her keys, her eyes missing nothing. Then there's the cook, footman, housemaids, and you, a scullery maid or underfootman depending on your luck. The family upstairs. They're the untouchables, gliding through life while you keep their world spotless. Your role is clear. Keep the house running, stay invisible. The mainstream fact here is that Edwardian households employed thousands, over 1 million domestic servants in Britain alone by 1911, propping up the aristocracy's lifestyle. But the quirky tidbit: some servants were hired for their height, or looks to impress guests like human ornaments. Imagine being chosen because your face matched the wallpaper. Historians still argue whether this rigid system was a last gasp of Victorian control or a new Edwardian obsession with status. Either way, you're part of it now, a cog in a machine that never stops. You glance at the servants' staircase, steep and unlit, leading to the attic where you'll sleep if you're lucky. The bellboard jangles, each chime a summons to a different room. You learn fast. The library bell means books to dust, the drawing room means tea to serve. Ignore it, and you're done for. The house is alive, its demands relentless, and you're expected to move like a ghost, seen only when needed. You overhear the senior footman, James, muttering about the master's new motorcar, a shiny contraption that's got the stable boys in a tizzy. Costs more than our wages for a decade, he scoffs. You smirk, joke number one, because if you don't laugh, you might cry at the thought of your sixpence a week. Your first task is simple but brutal. Fetch water from the courtyard pump. The bucket's heavier than it looks, and the icy handle bites your palms. The courtyard is a chaos of delivery boys and coal carts, the air thick with soot. You dodge a stray dog, probably better fed than you, and haul the water inside. The housekeeper catches you pausing to wipe your brow and snaps, "No idling." You nod, biting back a retort. The servants' hall where you'll eat later is your only refuge, but even there the pecking order reigns. The cook might slip you an extra biscuit if you're quick with the dishes, but the butler, he'd rather dock your pay for a smudge on the silver. You're learning the rhythm of this place, where every polished surface hides a servant's sweat. The family upstairs lives in a bubble of silk and champagne, oblivious to the army keeping it afloat. You're not just cleaning or serving, you're upholding an entire way of life. And as you lug that bucket down the corridor, you realise this is just the start of a very long day. The manor's heartbeat is your pulse now, and there's no escaping it. You're jolted awake by a shrill bell at 5:30 a.m., the sound slicing through the thin fog of sleep in your attic room. The air is chilly, your breath visible as you fumble for your boots in the dark. The manor is stirring, and you're expected to be up before the sun, ready to make the house perfect for the family upstairs. Your morning routine as a servant is a grind that starts now, no exceptions. You pull on your uniform, coarse wool that itches like a bad decision, and splash icy water from a chipped basin onto your face. No time for daydreams, the housekeeper's already pacing the corridors, her keys jingling like a jailer's. You stumble down the servants' staircase, narrow and creaking, your candle casting jittery shadows on the plaster walls. The mainstream fact is that Edwardian servants often worked 16-hour days, starting before dawn to ensure the family's comfort. Your first task is lighting the kitchen fire, a beast of a stove that demands kindling, coal and prayers. The cook, Mrs. Patmore, if we're channeling nostalgia, is already barking orders, her face red from steam. You kneel, scraping ash from yesterday's fire, your knuckles blackening. The quirky tidbit. Some households use bizarre fire-starting tricks, like soaking newspaper in whale oil. Imagine the smell. Historians still argue whether these long hours crushed servant spirits or forged unbreakable camaraderie. You're leaning toward crushed as a cinder burns your finger. You're sent to fetch eggs from the hen house, dodging mud and squawking birds. Back in the kitchen, you're on potato peeling duty, your hands numbing in cold water. The other maids chatter, but you're too tired for gossip. Joke number 1, you wonder if the chickens get better rest than you. The bellboard clangs again, summoning you to the dining room to lay out linens. You smooth the tablecloth, careful not to crease it, knowing the butler's eagle eyes will spot any flaw. The room smells of wax and wealth, with mahogany chairs you'll never sit in. You're invisible here, a shadow moving through a world that's not yours. Next, you're hauling coal buckets to the family's bedrooms. The stairs feel endless, each step a reminder of your place. You stoke fires, the heat a brief mercy against the morning chill. The family's still asleep, their rooms a maze of velvet drapes and porcelain trinkets. You spot a lady's maid adjusting a corset for the mistress. Good luck breathing in that, you think, smirking. Joke number 2. Back downstairs, you're scrubbing pots before breakfast prep ramps up. The cook's yelling about lumpy porridge, and you're tempted to accidentally drop a spoon just to feel something else. The servants' hall is your next stop, where you gulp weak tea and a crust of bread. The senior footman, Thomas, sneers at your slouched posture. Hierarchy never sleeps. You're already exhausted, but the day's just begun. The housekeeper sweeps in, assigning you to polish the brass doorknobs before the family rises. You grab a rag and a tin of polish, the smell sharp enough to wake the dead. Each knob gleams, but one smudge, and you're back to square one. You catch your reflection in the brass, pale, tired, but still here. Joke number 3. You bet the doorknobs live a shinier life than you. The manor's rhythm is relentless, each task blending into the next. You're not just cleaning, you're keeping the illusion of effortless luxury alive. The family will wake soon, expecting fires lit, rooms spotless, and breakfast ready, all without seeing the sweat behind it. You glance at the clock, barely 7 a.m., and trudge back to the kitchen, where the cook's now wrestling with a temperamental oven. Remember that bucket you hauled yesterday? It's waiting for you again, along with 100 other tasks. The day stretches ahead, a marathon you can't escape, but you keep moving, because stopping isn't an option. You're in the grand hall now, a cavernous space where sunlight spills through tall windows, glinting off marble floors you're about to scrub. The air smells of beeswax and old money, chandeliers dangling like glass promises overhead. Your knees ache already, but you've got a bucket of soapy water, a stiff brush, and the housekeeper's shadow looming nearby. Her glare could curdle milkshees watching for any speck of dirt you miss. This hall is the manor's heart, where guests are dazzled and the family's status is flaunted, and it's your job to make it flawless. One wrong move, like scuffing the floor, and you're in for a lecture that'll outlast your patience. You dip the brush, the water cold enough to bite, and start scrubbing in rhythmic circles. The mainstream fact is that Edwardian households obsessed over cleanliness, with servants like you spending hours daily on floors and fixtures to uphold the family's reputation. The tiles are black and white, laid in a dizzying pattern, and you swear they're mocking you. Joke number 1. They stay cleaner than your dreams of a day off. The quirky tidbit? Some manors used vinegar-soaked bread to clean delicate surfaces. You imagine nibbling it on a dare. Historians still argue whether this cleaning mania was about hygiene or just flexing social superiority. You're betting on the latter as you scrub harder. The housekeeper, Mrs. Ellis, let's call her, sweeps by, her skirts rustling like a storm warning. Faster, or we'll be here till midnight, she snaps. You nod, biting back a sigh, and glance at the portraits lining the wall's stern-faced lords and ladies who seem to judge your every stroke. You wonder if they ever scrubbed anything in their lives. Probably not. A footman, William, passes with a tray, winking as he dodges your bucket. Careful, or you'll polish me next, he teases joke number 2. You roll your eyes, but keep working, the brush's bristles fraying as fast as your nerves. The hall's size is daunting, stretching longer than a village street. You move methodically, rinsing and scrubbing, your hands reddening. The butler appears, inspecting your work like a general at parade. He points to a smudge you swear wasn't there a second ago. Again, he says, and you grit your teeth, redoing the section. Your back screams, but you can't pause other servants bustle past, carrying linens or silver, each with their own tasks. The house never sleeps, not really. You catch a glimpse of the mistress gliding toward the drawing room, her silk gown whispering, she doesn't see you, and that's the point. You're halfway done when a delivery boy clomps in, tracking mud across your clean tiles. You stifle a groan joke number 3. Maybe you should scrub his boots while you're at it. You shoo him out, mop up the mess, and start over. The hall must be perfect before the family hosts tonight's guests, some fancy types with titles longer than your workday. You overhear the cook muttering about extra courses for dinner, which means more work for everyone. The soap scent is dizzying now, mixing with the polish from yesterday's brass cleaning marathon. You recall that gleaming doorknob, your reflection in it, and wonder if you'll ever look less tired. As you near the hall's far end, the housekeeper returns, nodding curtly high praise from her. You empty the murky water outside, your arms trembling from the bucket's weight. The courtyard's quieter now, the morning rush of deliveries done, but the day's far from over. You're already dreading the next task, something about polishing silver or hauling coal again. The grand hall sparkles behind you, a monument to your labour, but no one will thank you. That's the servant's life-endless work, invisible results. You wipe your hands on your apron, ready for whatever the bellboard demands next. You're in the kitchen now, a steamy, chaotic world, where the air smells of sizzling bacon and burnt toast. Pots clatter, knives flash, and the cooklets call her Mrs. Baxter rules like a general in an apron. It's breakfast time, and you're swept into the frenzy of preparing the family's morning meal. The stove roars, its heat plastering your hair to your forehead as you dodge a scullery maid juggling eggs. Your job is to help plate the feast, from kedgeree to perfectly poached eggs, all while keeping up with Mrs. Baxter's barked orders. One slip, like dropping a sausage, and you'll be scrubbing pots till midnight. You grab a tray, piling it with porcelain dishes that cost more than your yearly wage. The mainstream fact is that Edwardian breakfasts were lavish, often featuring fish, meats, and exotic fruits to showcase wealth. You spoon out steaming porridge, its warmth a cruel tease for your empty stomach, the quirky tidbit. Some households served deviled kidneys, a spicy dish you're glad you don't have to eat. Imagine the smell at 7 a.m. Historians still argue whether these feasts were about nourishment or just flexing social status. You're betting on status as you arrange toast in precise rows, like soldiers on parade. Mrs. Baxter snaps, "Mind the butter curls." You fumble with a tiny silver curler, shaping butter into ridiculous spirals joke number 1. Who has time to make butter look pretty? The kitchen's a circus, with maids darting in and out, fetching jams or refilling teapots. You're sent to chop parsley for garnish, your knife slipping on the damp board. A footman, Alfie, leans in, whispering, "Bet the master chokes on that kedgeree." You stifle a laugh joke number 2 and focus, knowing the housekeeper's probably lurking nearby, ready to pounce on any chatter. The bellboard jangles, signalling the family's awake. You load a tray with teacups so delicate they might shatter if you breathe wrong. The dining room's upstairs, and you're trusted barely to carry this load without disaster. The tray wobbles as you climb the servants' stairs, your boots slipping on worn steps. You push through the green baize door, entering the family's world of polished mahogany and crystal. The master's at the table, nose in a newspaper, while the mistress sips tea, her eyes flicking over you like your furniture. You set the tray down, silent as a ghost, and retreat before they notice you exist. Back in the kitchen, it's chaos reloaded. You're scrubbing pans now, grease coating your hands as Mrs. Baxter yells about undercooked kippers. You wonder if the family even tastes the food you slave over. Joke number 3. Maybe they're too busy counting their gold spoons. The heat's suffocating, steam curling from pots like dragon's breath. You catch a glimpse of the scullery maid, Annie, scrubbing a skillet with enough force to dent it. She mutters about the undercook's bad temper, and you nod, too tired to reply. The servants' hierarchy is as rigid here as anywhere, with Mrs. Baxter at the top and you, well, scraping the bottom. You're sent to fetch more coal for the stove, your arms aching from the morning's scrubbing in the grand hall. The courtyard's chilly, a sharp contrast to the kitchen's inferno, and you haul the bucket back, soot dusting your apron. The cook's already prepping lunch, muttering about mutton and mint sauce. You realize breakfast was just the warm-up lunch and dinner will be worse. The family's oblivious to the sweat behind their perfect meals, and you're learning to accept that. As you rinse a stack of plates, the bell rings again, pulling you back upstairs. The kitchen's pulse never stops, and neither do you. You're climbing the servants' staircase again, a heavy silver tray, balanced in your trembling hands, the scent of warm scones and Darjeeling tea wafting up. The dining room awaits, where you'll serve breakfast to the family, a task demanding the grace of a dancer and the silence of a mouse. The green baize door swings shut behind you, muffling the kitchen's chaos as you step into the upstairs world of crystal decanters and starched tablecloths. The morning light filters through lace curtains, painting the room in soft golds, but there's no warmth for you, just the pressure to be invisible yet perfect. One clink of a saucer, and the butler's glare will burn hotter than the kitchen stove. You glide toward the table, where the master sits, his moustache twitching over a newspaper, and the mistress adjusts her pearl brooch, her eyes skimming past you. The mainstream fact is that Edwardian servants were trained to serve with military precision, moving in choreographed silence to avoid disturbing the family's peace. You set down the teapot, careful not to let it rattle, and arrange plates of kedgeree and toast with the precision of a jeweler. The quirky tidbit? Some households used servant bells, hidden under tables, so the family could summon you with a sneaky foot. Imagine the paranoia of never knowing when you're being watched. Historians still argue whether this silent service was about efficiency or reinforcing class divides. You're betting on the latter as you pour tea, holding your breath. The mistress murmurs something about the scones being adequate, and you bite back a smirk. Joke number 1. Adequate's high praise when you're not paid to have feelings. You retreat to the sideboard, standing statue still, ready to refill cups or clear plates the second a finger twitches. The young master, barely out of Oxford, fumbles his fork, and you swoop in to replace it, your movements swift but soundless. A footman, George, lingers nearby, polishing a candelabra for no reason other than to look busy. Joke number 2. You're both masters of pretending to work while dreaming of sleep. The room hums with the family's chatterstocks, garden parties, a new motor car, but you're not meant to listen, only to act. You clear a plate, the porcelain cool against your chapped hands, and catch a glimpse of yourself in the silver tray's reflection. Tired eyes, starched cap, a ghost in this opulent world. The butler sweeps in, his presence a silent warning to stay sharp. You adjust a napkin, your fingers brushing the tablecloth's crisp edge, and wonder how many hands like yours have kept this house running. The answer's in the millions, but it doesn't make your tray feel lighter. A bell chimes faintly, another summons, probably for more hot water. You exit through the baize door, the tray now laden with empty dishes. The staircase feels steeper going down, your legs protesting after the morning's grind in the grand hall and kitchen. You recall the butter curls you shaped earlier, their ridiculous spirals mocking your exhaustion. Back in the kitchen, the cook's already yelling about lunch prep, and you're handed a cloth to wipe down the tray. Joke number 3. You bet the tray gets more rest than you do, gleaming on its shelf overnight. You're learning the art of silent servitude, moving through the dining room like a breeze that doesn't dare rustle the curtains. The family's world depends on your invisibility. their comfort built on your sweat. As you polish the tray, the butler calls you back upstairs someone's spilled jam, and it's your mess to clean. You grab a rag and head up, the staircase, your endless treadmill. The day's rhythm is unrelenting, each task a thread in the manor's tapestry, and you're woven in too deep to stop now. You're in the laundry room now, a steamy purgatory where the air smells of lye soap and damp linen, and the heat wraps around you like a wet blanket. Mountains of sheets, tablecloths, and petticoats tower over you, each one dirtied by the family upstairs and waiting for your aching hands to make it pristine again. Your fingers are already pruning as you plunge them into a tub of scalding water, scrubbing a lace-trimmed napkin that probably saw one dainty dab at the mistress's lips. The laundry's endless grind is your reality today, a relentless cycle of soak, scrub, rinse, repeat. You're not sure what's worse, the back-breaking work or the fact that no one notices when it's done right. The mainstream fact is that Edwardian households produced staggering amounts of laundry, with servants washing tons of linens weekly by hand, using wooden washboards and crude mangles. You wrestle with a bedsheet, its weight doubled by water, and heave it into the rinsing tub. The quirky tidbit? Some laundresses used urine as a bleaching agent, thankfully. Your manner sticks to lye, though the fumes make your eyes water. Historians still argue whether this grueling labour was a deliberate way to keep servants too exhausted to rebel, or just a necessity of the era's lifestyle. You're leaning toward the former as you scrub a stubborn tea stain, your knuckles raw. The laundry-maid, Sarah, grumbles beside you, her arms elbow-deep in suds. "If I see one more muddy petticoat, I'll scream," she mutters. You grin joke number one. Maybe you should scream in harmony, like a choir of miserable mermaids. The mangle creaks as you feed a sheet through its rollers, your shoulders burning with each turn. The housekeeper pokes her head in, her eyes narrowing at a pile of unsorted linens. "Hurry up, or you'll be ironing till dawn," she snaps. You nod, biting back a retort, and keep scrubbing, the water sloshing like your fading energy. You haul a basket of damp linens to the drying yard, the courtyard air a brief relief from the laundry's steam. You peg sheets to the line, the wind flapping them like sails, and dodge a stray cat that's made the yard its kingdom joke number 2. That cat's got a better union than you. The sun's climbing, but you're too busy to notice its warmth. Back inside, you're ironing now, the heavy flat iron hissing against starched collars. One scorch mark, and you're in for it. You recall the grand hall's gleaming tiles from earlier, how they mocked your effort, and wonder if these linens will do the same. The laundry room's rhythm is a brutal dancer scrub. Rinse, wring, hang, iron. You're paired with Sarah, who's humming a tune to keep sane. She tells you about a footman who got sacked for stealing a napkin to impress a girl gossip's the only currency here. You laugh softly joke number 3. Maybe he thought the napkin was a love letter. The pile of linens shrinks slowly, but another basket arrives, delivered by a smirking underfootman. You want to toss the soap at him, but you grab another sheet instead. The family upstairs will slip into these crisp linens tonight, oblivious to the hours you've poured into them. As you fold a tablecloth, the bellboard clangs, summoning you to another task. Your hands are chapped, your back screams, but you've got no choice but to keep moving. The laundry's just one cog in the manners machine, and you're spinning with it. You glance at the drying yard through a grimy window, the sheets billowing like ghosts of your labour. The kitchen's chaos and the dining room's silent dance feel like distant memories, but they're all part of the same endless day. You tuck the tablecloth away, ready for whatever the manor demands next. You're back in the manor's dining room, but the morning's breakfast trays are long gone, replaced by a gleaming arsenal of silverware that you're tasked with polishing until it sparkles like the mistress's diamonds. The air smells of tangy polish and old wax, the long mahogany table stretching before you like a battlefield. Each fork, spoon and knife must be flawless for tonight's dinner, a multi-course affair for the family and their snooty guests. Your fingers, still raw from the laundry room's lye soap, grip a soft cloth as you rub a candelabra, its curves mocking your tired hands. One smudge, and the butler will have you doing this all over again. The mainstream fact is that Edwardian dining was a theatrical display of wealth, with silverware polished daily to reflect the family's status, sometimes dozens of pieces per place setting. You work on a soup spoon, its surface catching the gaslight's glow, and wonder how many mouths it's fed. The quirky tidbit? Some households used potato flour to clean tarnished silver. A trick you're grateful isn't used. Here, imagine the mess. Historians still argue whether this obsession with gleaming tableware was about hygiene or just showing off. You're polishing your way toward showing off as your wrist aches, the cloth blackening with tarnish. The butler, Mr. Grayson, hovers nearby, his watch chain glinting as he inspects a fork you just finished. Adequate, he grunts, which is as close to praise as you'll get. Joke number 1. You'd frame that word if you could afford a frame. You move to a gravy boat, its intricate engravings a nightmare to clean. A housemaid, Jane, polishes candlesticks across the table, muttering about the footman who borrowed a silver spoon for a prank. You chuckle. Joke number 2. Maybe he's dining like a lord in the servants' hall now. The room's quiet except for the soft clink of silver and the distant hum of the kitchen prepping below. You recall the town errands earlier, the weight of the sugar sack still lingering in your shoulders, and glance at the dining room's opulence. The silver you're polishing isn't just for eating, it's a status symbol, each piece engraved with the family's crest. You rub harder, the cloth warming under your fingers, and catch your reflection in a platter, tired but determined. The mistress sweeps in briefly, her silk skirt rustling, to inspect the table settings. She doesn't acknowledge you, but her nod to the butler means you're doing something right. You're invisible, as always, a ghost keeping the manor's shine alive. The bellboard chimes faintly, pulling a footman to another room, but you're stuck here, wrestling with a stubborn tarnish spot on a knife. The housekeeper pokes her head in, her eyes scanning for flaws. Mind the tines. She snaps and you nod, suppressing a sigh. You're halfway through the silver chest when Jane whispers about a guest who once pocketed a spoon scandalous for the upstairs crowd. You smirk. Joke number 3. Maybe you should pocket one and start a collection. The thought fades as you tackle a sugar tongs, its delicate claws a test of your patience. The dining room's grandeur is a stark contrast to the laundry's steam and the town's muddy streets, but the work's no less grueling. Each piece of silver you polish is a thread in the manor's tapestry of wealth, and you're weaving it with every swipe. The dinner looms, a marathon of courses you'll help serve, and this silver will dazzle the guests who never see your hands. You set the last spoon down, the table a mirror of perfection, and brace for the next task. The manor's pulse dragging you along. You're out in the bustling town now, sent on errands under a grey Edwardian sky, the manor's walls swapped for cobblestone streets and the clamour of horse-drawn carts. Your boots splash through puddles as you clutch a list from the housekeeper. Candles, sugar, a spool of thread, and a cryptic note about the master's favourite pipe tobacco. The air smells of coal smoke and fresh bread from a nearby bakery, tempting you, but your pockets hold only a few pennies for the manor's needs. Navigating the town's social maze as a servant means keeping your head down, dodging curious stares, and remembering your place in this rigid world. The mainstream fact is that Edwardian servants often ran errands, acting as the household's link to the outside world, from grocers to apothecaries. You duck into a crowded shop, its shelves stuffed with tins and jars, and hand over the list to a clerk who barely glances at you. The quirky tidbit? Some servants were sent to buy patent medicines like cocaine, laced tonics, sold as cures for everything from fatigue to freckle. Imagine sneaking that past the housekeeper. Historians still argue whether these errands gave servants a taste of freedom or just extended the manor's control into the streets. You're feeling the control as you hurry to the next stop, the list a leash in your hand. The grocer's boy hands you a sack of sugar, heavy enough to strain your already sore arms from yesterday's laundry grind. You mutter thanks, but he's already flirting with a customer's daughter. Joke number 1. You bet he's got more charm than the manor's silver spoons. You weave through the market, dodging hawkers shouting about fish and flowers. A lady in a feathered hat brushes past, her perfume a stark contrast to the lye soap still clinging to your skin. You're invisible here, just like in the manor, but the town's energy is a jolt after the house's stuffy rules. At the tobacconist, You hand over the note, and the old man behind the counter squints at you. "Servant, eh? Don't smoke this yourself," he warns, passing you a tin that smells like burnt cherries. You smirk joke number 2, as if you could afford a puff. The streets are a minefield of etiquette. You nod to a passing footman from another household, but avoid eye contact with anyone above you. The manners hierarchy follows you everywhere, a shadow you can't shake. You recall the grand hall's gleaming tiles, how they mocked your scrubbing, and wonder if this tobacco will earn a rare nod from the master. Your final stop is the draper's for thread to mend the mistress's lace. The shop's warm, smelling of wool and dye, and you linger a moment, pretending you're not racing the clock. A group of maids from another estate gossip nearby, their laughter a brief reminder of life beyond chores. You catch a snippet about a scandalous elopement servant gossip, travels faster than a motor car. You grab the thread and head back, the town's noise fading as you near the manor's gates. Joke number 3. Maybe the cobblestones miss you more than the housekeeper does. The manor looms ahead, its chimneys puffing like it's breathing down your neck. You've got everything on the list, but the weight of the day errands, laundry, kitchen chaos settles in your bones. The housekeeper will check every item, her eyes sharper than a tailor's needle. You adjust the sugar sack, your hands still raw from scrubbing, and push through the servant's entrance. The bellboard's already chiming, pulling you back into the manor's rhythm. The town was a brief escape, but the manor's grip is tighter than ever, and you're already bracing for the next task. You're in the dining room again, but now it's evening, the gaslights casting a warm glow over a table set for a lavish dinner. The silver you polished earlier gleams under crystal chandeliers, and the air smells of roasted pheasant and red wine. You're a footman, Tonitor, maybe still a scullery maid pressed into service-carrying platters heavy with food you'll never taste, weaving through a maze of aristocratic whims. The family and their guests, all starched collars and glittering jewels, chatter about politics and hunt seasons, oblivious to your presence. Your job is to serve, clear, and dodge their unpredictable demands without a sound, all while keeping the tray steady and your face blank. The mainstream fact is that Edwardian dinners were marathon affairs, often stretching over 2 hours with up to 7 courses, from consommé to dessert, each requiring flawless service. You glide in with a tureen of soup, its steam curling like a dragon's breath, and ladle it into bowls with surgical precision. The quirky tidbit? Some guests brought their own gold-plated cutlery to flaunt their wealth. Imagine the butler's face when they whipped those out. Historians still argue whether these dinners were about hospitality or pure social posturing. You're betting posturing as you catch the master's eye flick to a guest's diamond cufflinks, not your tray. A lady in a velvet gown waves her fan, signalling for more wine, and you hurry to pour, the bottle heavier than it looks. "Careful, girl," she murmurs, her tone sharp enough to slice bread. Joke number 1, you'd rather pour it on her hat. You retreat to the sideboard, standing rigid, ready to pounce when a plate needs clearing. The young lord, tipsy on claret, drops a fork, and you swoop in, replacing it before anyone blinks. The butler nods faintly high praise, and you feel a flicker of pride, quickly snuffed by the weight of the next platter. A footman, Charlie, whispers. Bet he drops the knife next, and you stifle a grin. Joke number 2. The room hums with clinking glasses and laughter, but you're a shadow, moving through the candlelight. You clear a course, the plate's still warm, and catch a whiff of truffle sauce that makes your stomach growl. You recall the kitchen's chaos earlier, the cook's shouts over the pheasant, and marvel at how it's transformed into this elegant display. The mistress gestures for a napkin, and you hand it over, your fingers brushing the linen you ironed yesterday. She doesn't look at you, but a guest's sudden request for salt sends you scurrying to the pantry, heart racing. One wrong move, and the butler's glare will burn hotter than the kitchen stove. The dinner drags on, course after coursefish, game, sorbet, cheese. You're sweating under your uniform, the tray's weight pulling at your arms. A guest's loud joke about a rival's motorcar crash makes you bite your lip. Joke number 3. You'd crash a motorcar for a night off. You glance at the clock, barely visible in the corner. It's nearing 10 p.m., and you've been on your feet since dawn. The servant's staircase looms in your mind, a steep climb back to the kitchen where more dishes await. The family's world sparkles, built on your silent labor, and you're already dreading the cleanup as you clear another plate. You slip through the green baize door, the dining room's chatter fading. The kitchen's a mess of pots and steam, but you're back in a moment, carrying a dessert tray of profiteroles that look like tiny works of art. The guests ooh and ah, and you retreat, your roll done until the next bell. The manor's pulse beats on, and you're caught in it, serving a world that doesn't see you. You're still reeling from the dinner service, your arms aching from balancing trays, when you slip back through the green baize door into the servants' world. The contrast hits hard upstairs, all crystal and laughter. Downstairs, a gritty maze of narrow corridors and flickering lamps. You're navigating the upstairs-downstairs divide now, where tensions simmer like the cook's forgotten soup. The family above lives in a bubble of silk and privilege, while you and the other servants scurry below, keeping their world afloat. Every interaction, every glance or curt order reminds you of the invisible line between them and you, a line as sharp as the silver knives you polished yesterday. The mainstream fact is that Edwardian households were built on a rigid class divide, with servants and employers rarely mixing beyond formal duties, their lives separated by architecture and etiquette. You're fetching a fresh jug of water for the drawing room when you overhear the mistress scolding a housemaid for a crooked tablecloth, her tones icy, and you wince, knowing that could have been you. The quirky tidbit? Some servants were forbidden from using the front door. Even in emergencies like getting caught in a rainstorm meant circling to the back, sopping wet. Historians still argue whether this divide was about maintaining order or dehumanizing the help. You're feeling the latter as you lug the jug upstairs, your boots silent on the carpet. In the drawing room, the family's sipping sherry, their voices a low hum about some lord's scandalous divorce. You set the jug down, unnoticed, but catch the young master's eye as he smirks at a footman's stiff posture joke number 1. You bet he's practicing for the butler's job in 20 years. You retreat, but the housekeeper catches you in the corridor, hissing about a speck of dust on a banister. Do better, she snaps, and you nod, your stomach twisting. The divide isn't just with the family, it's among servants too. The butler and housekeeper reign supreme, while you, low on the ladder, dodge their wrath. Back downstairs, you're sent to clear the servants' hall, where a scullery maid, Lizzie, whispers about the master's temper after a bad stock deal. He threw a glass last week, she says, wide-eyed. You raise an eyebrow joke number 2. Maybe he thought the glass was his broker. The servants' hall is your only space to breathe. But even here, the pecking order stings senior staff get better chairs, bigger portions. You recall the dining room's opulence, the silver you polished, gleaming under chandeliers, and contrast it with this cramped room, its table scarred from years of hurried meals. The bellboard clangs, pulling you to the library to restock coal. You pass the mistress on the stairs, her perfume heavy, and lower your eyes as trained. She doesn't see you, but her voice carries, complaining about a guest's vulgar accent. You bite back a laugh joke number 3. Her accent's probably posher than your entire existence. The library's warm, bookshelves towering, but you're here to kneel by the fire, not read. The master's pipe tobacco, fetched from town yesterday, sits on a table, its cherry scent a faint reminder of your errands. You stoke the fire, ash dusting your hands, and slip out before anyone notices. The divide is everywhere. Doors you can't use, rooms you can't linger in, words you can't say. Upstairs, the family's world is a performance. Downstairs, it's survival. You're caught between a ghost keeping the manor's illusion alive. As you head back to the servants' staircase, the day's wait dinner service, laundry, errand settles deeper. The manor's pulse never slows, and neither do you.